I do. Thank you. Do you have a water? I do now. We're chaos tonight. We shouldn't be allowed to record together after 5 p.m. because I could see myself just doing the whole podcast at you right now. Forget it. We don't, audience who? Okay, let's hit it. Hey guys, it's Sam and welcome to Caps Lock, a podcast. Sorry, I just realized I'm screaming and we just audio tested at normal volume level. So I'm going to try that again. I'm like yelling. What was that? Hey guys, it's Sam and welcome to Caps Lock, a podcast designed to help you live bigger, better, louder, and longer. Before we get started, I just want to thank you guys for listening, for giving this a chance, and for coming here in pursuit of your best self. This is a space where we are going to grow together, and my hope is that it helps you go forward confidently, unapologetically, and with purpose. It's time to live your life in Caps Lock. If that mission feels aligned for you, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and let's dive in. It is 2026. I know I said that last week, but that episode was pre-recorded like at least 2 weeks before the new year. So this is the first episode we're actually recording in the new year. Happy New Year. I hope all your dreams are coming true already. And if they're not, go back and listen to episode number 1 and also episode 56, which is about the law of attraction. The first episode ever of all time is New Year's resolutions episode, and episode 56 is about the law of attraction, which builds on that episode. Highly recommend. If you didn't get started on Jan 1, that doesn't mean you can't start on Jan 10, 11, 12, 13. Start whenever you want, but don't wait until next year, because I'll tell you what sucks is coming up on New Year's and writing down the same resolution that you wrote down last year. That sucks. It's a silly business today because it's 5:50 p.m. and Remy and I don't normally record in the evening, but we're sitting here and we have just been so punchy while we're setting up the audio. So if I start stumbling over my words, if you think I'm having a stroke, it's because I am. It's going great. I sat down and I said, I can't believe I look like this right now. And Remy said, I think it's okay to look like the day we're having. And that is just the vibe. I have some very cool guests coming in over the next few weeks on Caps Lock. I have a mindset coach who specializes in abundance mindset and scarcity mindset. I have a dentist who I believe, I don't know what kind of, I think you get a dental degree to become a dentist. I don't know. This guy is fabulous. He is coming on to talk about how our oral health actually impacts our longevity. We don't talk about that enough. I feel like it's like the forgotten part, the forgotten pillar of longevity, and we never have discussed it. So we're doing that. I have someone coming on to talk about balancing our blood sugar and how to incorporate those techniques into our eating habits, our day-to-day life. Someone coming on to talk about PCOS and hormone health and way, way, way more. One of my biggest New Year's resolutions is to bring you guys really intentional guests and more of them so that we can talk about topics that, frankly, I'm just not qualified to talk about on my own. And it would really only be telling half the story to just bring the research that I can find on the internet without bringing like the personal and professional experience of working in that industry. So these people have that experience. I'm bringing them to the table to have some amazing conversations, and you will hear those episodes over the next few weeks and months, but that's just a smattering of what we're working on. I'm also actively seeking doctors to talk about peptides, like the NAD plus stuff. I don't know anything about it. And hormone replacement therapy, 2 topics that I don't feel qualified to speak about on my own. And if I'm slurring my words today, it's because I went to the dentist and they did a cleaning and I had like sort of a nick. I like bit my lip the other day and it has turned into a canker sore that hurts literally so bad. And then they like numbed my gums and the back of my tongue to do the cleaning because they had to like poke and prod me a lot. And they numbed the canker sore so that they wouldn't like burn it. Long story short, my mouth is just numb and I sound like wasted right now and I'm doing my best to enunciate, but if that is annoying for you guys, I'm sorry. Anyway, could not be more excited to bring these topics to you and these guests to you, but today you are stuck with me, so we'll have a little bit of bestie time, and we are going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart because it was the vast majority of my personality until just a year or 2 ago when I learned how to not make it my entire personality, and that topic is overthinking. We'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Whoop. Whoop is the only wearable that turns your health and fitness data into personalized guidance. I've been wearing my Whoop for over 2 years now, and I can confidently say that the new model is legitimately an amazing upgrade. The new device is 7% smaller than the previous model, and the new battery lasts for 2 full weeks before you need to recharge. But those aren't even my favorite features. Between tracking for women's cycles and hormones, determining your physiological age and pace of aging, and heart health features like on-demand blood pressure and ECG readings, the new Whoop is designed to improve your longevity and could literally be a lifesaver. And now, for the first time, Whoop Advanced Labs connects over 65 key biomarkers like thyroid-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, and cortisol with more than 100,000 daily health data points. When you schedule a lab test, you don't just get numbers. You get clarity on what's happening inside your specific individual body, including insights to your hormones, metabolism, and recovery, plus a clear action plan to start improving your health. You know how I feel about my health. Proactive and preventative. And the new Whoop is my number one teammate in wellness. Join now at join.whoop.com/Samantha Fair. That's join.whoop.com/Samantha Fair. Today, we are going to deep dive into what it actually looks like to overthink, ruminating, reading into signs that aren't even there, cognitive loops, and what it means and how to stop it. So, in terms of what overthinking feels like, my personal experience with overthinking is that it happens most when your insecure attachment style is showing. In other words, it was almost always about my friendships or my romantic relationships. I remember I would lie awake for hours at night and be so nervous and anxious anytime I was by myself and letting my thoughts run free. There were times when I would spiral so hard for so long over something that I basically made up in my head that I would actually start crying. Like, I have been in a total tizzy. And usually there is like an onset, right? There's like, oh, I was weird when I was drunk last night, or this guy's not texting me back, or I have this weird gut feeling about my relationship right now. And I would spiral about what I said or what I didn't say, what they said or didn't say. Do they even like me? Is everyone mad at me? Does everyone hate me? Why is that guy ghosting me? Did I do something wrong? And I know we've all been here when you hang out with your best friend and you just like talk about the same thing over and over and over because you need reassurance that you're not crazy and you're not a horrible person undeserving of love. Canon event. Those are some examples of how overthinking manifests as rumination, which mainly focuses on things that happened in the past, things that have already occurred, things that are over, that you spiral about after the fact. But overthinking can also manifest as worrying about the future, like at work. It goes hand in hand with perfectionism. I've experienced it myself with pretty much everything I've ever done. One example I come across all the time is people who really want to start making content on social media. I'm not even kidding you when I say this has happened with several of my personal friends. I would say I get a phone call or a text like once every 2 or 3 months from a different person saying, hey, I want to pick your brain. I'm thinking of starting to become a creator. I want to be an influencer. I would say this happens once every 2 or 3 months with people I know personally. And I would even say with people I'm like pretty close with. Like, this happens a lot. Anyway, these people come to me and they say they really want to start making content for social media, but then they overthink it and they spiral about it and they come up with a million bullshit reasons not to do it or why they think they can't do it. And then ultimately they never do anything at all. Not one of my friends who said they wanted to become an influencer has actually tried to do it. But I would say I've had this conversation over the last 2 or 3 years, once every 2 months. And this is not like shade. This is just like me noticing a pattern and realizing what it actually is. Like, it's them overthinking it. Instead of just starting, they panic and worry about all the possibilities of things that could go wrong or not work out. And it ends up all just being a big waste of time, energy, and potential when they could have spent all that time actually doing anything at all. This has happened already, I would estimate, with 8 or 9 of my personal friends. And this happened to me before I took the leap as well. And it happens to more and more people every day. I would say it is the number one most common way I see and hear about overthinking in other people these days, outside of the application in their personal relationships and friendships. But the only difference between me and those people, it's not that I'm better at content. It's not that I'm better at editing. It's not that I'm funnier. It's not that I'm better looking. It's not that I'm smarter. It's just that I did it. It's just that I got over the overthinking stage and I was like, fuck it. And I made a 10-second video and I posted it. And then the day after that, I made a 12-second video and I posted it. And now it's my job, right? So anyway, those are just a couple examples of how we overthink. And like I said, it usually falls within these two categories: ruminating on the past and worrying about the future. And honestly, when overthinking is happening to you, you feel insane. You feel crazy. It feels like your brain is a prison and you cannot get out. And everyone tells you, don't worry about it. You're reading into it too much. You're overthinking it. But that is so much easier said than done. And once you've got started overthinking, it feels totally impossible to stop. And so to anyone out there who has said a million times you want to try to be an influencer and then not followed up and just overthought it and never actually taken any action, this is not shade. This is my effort to help you stop overthinking it. We are going to start at the root, which obviously begins with the question, why do we overthink in the first place? Of course, overthinking in all its forms can totally be attributed to, and also, by the way, contribute to anxiety, depression, OCD, and other diagnosed mental health disorders. And just to clarify the intentions of this episode in the podcast at large, I'm not a medical professional. I don't claim to be one. Nothing I say in these episodes should be taken as medical advice unless it comes from a doctor. And even then, those doctors don't know your particular health situation. So no one should ever, under any circumstances, be treating this podcast as medical advice. It's not intended to treat or cure a diagnosed illness or disorder. This podcast is intended as general recommendations for the average healthy adult. And when I get comments on Instagram or on the TikTok or on the podcast saying like, oh, this doesn't work for everyone because what about this? You're having trouble critically thinking and you're having trouble with generalized statements and applying them. And you're having trouble with conflating personal, individualized, highly specific circumstances with general statements. And so I just wanted to clarify that because I heard that recently and I was like, I think we should talk about critical thinking all the time and think about it all the time. And I actually think, tell me what you think about this. It was a genius idea, actually, that Dr. Shepard had on our episode about menopause. And I said something about how people need to wear their critical thinking caps. And she was like, you should totally make a hat that says critical thinking cap. I think that's funny. So if you guys like that idea, let me know in the comments because I think it'd be fun to sell those. Oh, speaking of, sorry, I'm going to take a little pause before we continue with this episode. I put up the Caps Lock website finally. After 1 year of having the podcast and procrastinating and not knowing how to do this, I put up the website. And if you want your Caps Lock hat, you're now able to buy them. They're $34. Go to our website. It's lifeincapslock.com. It's the same as all our social handles and everything. And the website, you can listen to episodes. You can sign up for a newsletter, which I'm not sending a weekly newsletter, just to be clear. I hate those. I'm not doing that to you. I'm collecting email addresses so that when we have events, I can email you about them. That's basically it. It'll be for live stage shows, panels, workouts that we do. There are not a lot of circumstances outside of those where I'll email you. So it's a pretty safe newsletter to put your email into. I'm really not going to hit you up. But you can buy the hat if you want to. And I've already sold a couple. I didn't even start really posting about it yet. But I've already sold a couple. I mailed them today. It was really exciting. Anyway, back to the show. Aside from diagnosed mental health issues, I genuinely believe that when you boil it down, there is one umbrella reason why we overthink, why we spiral, why we ruminate. And it's kind of hard to hear because it's a sort of embarrassing and uncomfortable truth. And it doesn't feel good to confront that. It doesn't feel good to admit it to ourselves. But it is so simple. We do not trust or believe in ourselves. When you overthink things, you are replaying a scenario over and over in your head, or you're thinking about all the different possible outcomes in a situation, including the unlikely ones. And then you're basically picking the worst one and spiraling over it. And it gives you the illusion of control or certainty. And one of the reasons we overthink is because humans, in an evolutionary capacity, a biological capacity, we live in pursuit of control and certainty and predictability and familiarity and safety. It makes you feel like you are going to be 100% prepared for any outcome, or like you're actually taking helpful action toward a solution to the problem. Now, obviously, this doesn't work if you're ruminating about the past. You cannot change what happened in the past. And all you're doing by overthinking it is trying to rationalize and justify whatever happened. Unfortunately, that is not productive, which is why you find yourself still sitting here thinking about it. This is especially relevant in the scenario I mentioned where you talk about the same thing over and over with your friend. Even together, you're not able to change the outcome in a situation. All you can do is rationalize and justify. But when your friend is around, you're also able to seek validation instead of truth. For example, you got drunk and said or did something weird, and you're worried the next day that everyone is mad at you or hates you. Canon. We've all been there. Is it more productive to ruminate with your best friend on FaceTime for 12 hours the next day in a spiral of worry and self-loathing and uncertainty? Or would it be more productive to A, accept that maybe you were weird, but your real friends will understand, so you can move on with your life? Or B, reach out to the affected people directly, ask if you were weird, apologize if you were, and then accept it and move on? A huge part of overthinking things that happen in the past is your fear of conflict, your fear of judgment, your fear of failure, which, if you're a real OG Caps Lock listener, you know about my core belief that fear of failure is actually just fear of judgment in disguise because you're too embarrassed to call it that. We are so worried about how other people will perceive us that we would rather torture ourselves in isolation, put ourselves through absolute hell, trying to justify that embarrassing thing we did while we were drunk, than actually own it, apologize, do what we can to fix it, which, by the way, is the much shorter and more direct and less anxiety-inducing route. Yeah, you could be circuitous about it. You could isolate and justify and rationalize and spiral. Or you could take care of this in 5 minutes by shooting someone an apologetic text. Now, in terms of worrying about the future, obviously examining possible outcomes is a crucial step in the decision-making process. However, we are inclined to hyper-focus on the worst-case scenarios instead of the best-case scenarios because, like I said, humans are hardwired to seek out safety, predictability, self-preservation, survival. So you're actually not even worried about the best case scenario. You're not even thinking about it. If that comes, your body, your brain knows that you're automatically safe. So why go over that 100 times? Instead, you are thinking over and over about the worst case ones to try and prepare yourself for how to survive them. And unfortunately, if you listened to the last couple episodes, you know that your body and brain literally cannot, it is not able to tell the difference between something that you imagined vividly, and especially something you imagined both vividly and repeatedly, and something you lived and experienced. We've talked about this before. That means overthinking a future scenario is not productive either. It's actually putting your brain and body through psychological warfare, which in turn can result in both mental and physiological stressors. Your cortisol goes up. Your C-reactive protein, which is also in charge of inflammation, goes up. Your immunity goes down, a whole bunch of other things. So not only is overthinking not productive, whether it's past or future, because it will never actually change a past outcome, but it also has a cascade of negative consequences for your physical and mental health while you're ruminating on a future case scenario that might not even happen and might not even be likely to happen. And what's worse, the more times you repeat a thought process, the more and more you strengthen the neural pathway that guides you to that same place over and over again. So the more you spiral, the easier it becomes to spiral, the more natural it becomes to spiral, the more your brain is conditioned to spiral again and again in the future. By allowing it to continue right now, you are simply making it worse for yourself in the future. Which brings us to the question of the hour. How do we stop? The first thing I need you to do is to identify triggers and patterns. For me, one of the biggest ones was drinking alcohol. My behavior and thoughts when I was drinking were never fully aligned with my values or my reality. And I would always find myself posturing or wanting to let loose because I was so tightly wound the rest of the time. And then that would result in things like trauma dumping and crying and saying things I didn't mean. The next day was always the biggest fire drill in my head, overanalyzing every second of every single interaction, which, by the way, was so much worse if my memories were a little scattered or not all there, because then you fill in the blanks with the worst case scenarios. So for me, removing alcohol was one of the biggest cures to overthinking and made an enormous difference in my life because a lot of my overthinking would happen the day or days following a big night out. Now, another thing I want you to consider, if it is always related to the same person or the same thing or the same place, examine your relationship to that person or that thing or that place. So when it comes to people, for me, I have been in romantic relationships, one of which you guys know a lot about, that made me question everything, every second of the day. Always waiting for a text back, worrying about what I said, what I did, how I looked, how other people perceived me, how he perceived me, what he was thinking, what he was doing, what would happen next. Sometimes it's genuinely just gaslighting. Sometimes the other person is genuinely just not good for you. Sometimes the relationship is unhealthy. If the vast majority of your overthinking comes from one person, or maybe it's like a topic or a place, consider whether getting out of that relationship, getting out of that job, getting out of that space would quiet the noise in your head. I promise you it's worth it. I used to diagnose myself with all kinds of mental health shit. Guess what? I'm not anxious. I'm not depressed. I'm not bipolar. I'm not borderline. These are all things I have thought in the past that maybe I had. I was just being gaslit in my relationships. I'm good. Now, another pattern that is super common is sometimes you only spiral at night. Thoughts are always way worse and way louder at night. My best recommendation for this, and I have done this and I promise you it helps, is to brain dump in a pen and paper journal when you're in your spiral. Write down every single fucked up thing you are thinking and feeling in all of its crazy dramatic glory. And then I want you to go to bed and wake up and read it in the morning. It literally sounds insane. You sound crazy. Everything feels way smaller, way less of a big deal when the sun is out. Promise. Similarly, when you are isolated, like rotting at home by yourself because you're embarrassed or ashamed or nervous or anxious or stressed, the thoughts are also way worse and way louder because you're just in this echo chamber when the only thing your brain is receiving is, oh my God, I hate myself. I'm the worst. I'm so embarrassing. This is terrible. This is never going to work. Of course, that's all you can think about, girl. That's the only input your brain is getting. Please, 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 for the love of God, do not isolate yourself while this is happening to you. Go out in the world and say something nice to every single person you encounter. Eye contact, smile, say something friendly. Buy something small at a local store, chat up the sales associate, smile at the barista. One of my patterns when this was happening to me is I would always have my absolute worst spirals when I was alone, and I would make it worse and worse and worse by staying alone. Do not do that. Get some clothes on, go outside, and be around strangers. Trust me. One of the reasons that these patterns exist of having the worst spirals at night or when you're alone is because they simply amplify everything you're already thinking or feeling. Everything is quieter at night or when you're alone, and all you have to focus on is your panic. So if you notice that this is a trigger or a pattern for you, just remove yourself from that situation. Do the brain dump journal, go outside, whatever it is. Trust me on this one. Another thing you're going to do, maybe after that, I want you to ask yourself if this is life or death, if this will even matter 1 year from now. I've asked myself this question, will this matter a year from now? Probably 100 times in my life. I promise. I ask it all the time. And regardless of whether my answer in that moment is yes or no, like sometimes I'm like, will this matter in a year? Absolutely. I can tell you right now, as someone who's sitting here, I don't remember. I can't tell you off the top of my head a single time when the thing mattered a year later. Because if it did, you'd remember it. And I'm sitting here right now like, I promise I've said that a million times, but I can't identify a single time it is true. Not a single one. 99% of the time, the answer is no, it will not matter a year from now. It is not life or death, even if it feels like the end of the world in this moment. Catastrophizing is something that I've always been prone to. It's something I've worked on in therapy for a really long time. And catastrophizing is just like letting the spiral get worse and worse and worse until the consequence that I made up in my head is like so insane and unrealistic and earth-shattering. And sometimes it even feels realistic in the moment, but it's literally not. I am 28 years old, and every friendship or relationship that has ever ended in my life, it's been for the best. Every job I didn't get, for the best. Everything that didn't work out, a blessing. Think about that. 99.9% of the time, that is the case. And if you're listening to this episode right now, you have survived 100% of the bad things that have ever happened to you. So catastrophizing, when we all know this, we're smart enough to acknowledge it, to accept it. It's silly. It feels silly, right? Like we are torturing ourselves for what? So start by saying aloud, stop. Literally open your damn mouth and say it into thin air. Stop. Literally have a safe word for yourself. It could be pineapple for all I care. I don't know what your safe word is. But have a moment of speaking out loud to yourself. You can also do a physical stop. We have talked about this before. Mine is I stand up and I spin around in a circle. Lol. It's a good reset. But saying stop out loud really helps. So whether you have a physical thing or not, at least say stop aloud. And then ask yourself, will it matter in a year? Ask yourself if you even remember what the situation was about when you last asked yourself if something would matter a year from now. Do you even remember the last time you asked that? And do you remember what it was about? I literally don't. I literally don't. If you can barely answer those questions, literally shut up, girl. You're good. It's going to be okay. We're going to be fine. And listen to this episode back if you need to as like a reminder next time you're in a spiral. Another thing you can do is schedule a worry sesh. Put it on your calendar. Now, therapy is ideal for this because your friends, they'll let you worry about the same thing over and over, your real friends, but it gets tiring. It really does. Sometimes you just need to talk about it. You need to say the same thing over and over. You need to vent. And having someone like a therapist on the other end of your vent means they can validate your feelings while also keeping you realistic and grounded. Now, two different things happen if you're doing this with friends instead of a therapist. The first is, okay, the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time you vent about this, it's fine. It's no big deal. But the 800th time, it's kind of inconsiderate to be dumping this on your friend. Especially, by the way, if they're giving you advice and you're not taking it. That's not cool. We're not dumping for the 800th time on the friend who's trying to help us without taking their advice, right? And then the second thing that could happen is sometimes your friends just validate you. And that's not actually helpful because it's not always realistic. Like I have definitely seen friends blindly validate their other friends while they're freaking out about something when that other friend just, there's a truth they really need to hear or a possible plan of action to take that will really improve the situation. And it's really unhelpful to just blindly validate someone because it keeps them stuck in their panic bubble because it feels like they're doing the right thing. Now, listen, obviously therapy is a privilege, but there are so many ways that therapy is becoming more accessible, whether that's through insurance or things like BetterHelp. So if you are the kind of, this is not sponsored by BetterHelp, by the way. Now, do I think that would be a very aligned sponsor of the podcast? Absolutely. But they're not paying me to say this. It's just a good way that they're making therapy more accessible. So if you're the kind of person who needs to talk in circles to get over something, please at least give a real effort to looking into it before deciding like, oh, I can't afford it. Oh, it won't work for me. Oh, like therapy's not really my vibe. Just look into it. Give it a shot. Something that I have found is extremely helpful when I'm in an overthinking spiral is moving my focus to something that's like actually engaging and productive. You could read a book. You could go for a walk in a place with good people watching, aka all of New York City. You can do a workout class where someone's like yelling at you and telling you what to do. That's great because you can't let your thoughts wander. These are all good ideas. So move your focus to something that's engaging and productive. Just take your brain out of the spiral. Now, this is a big one and something that I find very actionable that has helped me get out of an overthinking panic in the past. And it's to identify what parts of the situation you can versus cannot control. So the first step to this is you're going to write out your worries or your repeated thoughts. Write them all out. And then you're going to use that list of worries to make a can control list and a cannot control list. We'll use this example again. Maybe one of your worries is your friend is mad at you because you accidentally said something weird while you were drinking last night. That's on your worries list. Happens to everyone. Now, in your can/cannot list, on the can side, you could write, I can control how much I drink and also how I behave when I'm out with my friends. Maybe also you can say, I can control my behavior afterwards. I can apologize for being inappropriate. I can commit to not acting that way again in the name of being a good friend. But on the cannot side, I need you to write, I cannot control how my friend ultimately feels about last night, and I cannot control how she chooses to move forward out of this situation. And go through your list of worries, all your different repeated thoughts, and divide it up like that. Now, the next time that you have your same worry, do not keep thinking in your same thought pattern. Go to your list, because guess what? Now we know what part of it we can control and what part of it can we not. So can you control something within that worry? If you cannot, say something out loud to signal the end of that thought loop, right? Say stop. And then maybe you read the cannot side out loud. I cannot control how my friend chooses to move forward from this situation. And then do one of the things I mentioned above, right? Read a book for 10 minutes, focus on something at work, turn on a movie, go for a walk, meet up with another friend who has nothing to do with the situation and don't talk about it. Talk about something completely different. Now, if you have your repeated worry and you refer to your cannot list, and there's something that you can control within that situation, guess what? That brings us to the next item on my list of recommendations today. You can make and execute a plan of action. We know what to do. Let's just keep riding with this example of you acted weird when you were drunk. The number one way that you can actually fix this situation is to identify the trigger or pattern and not let it happen again, right? So for me, I removed alcohol from my life. I'm never, ever again going to drunkenly say or do something that I regret. Ever. Because I'm not going to get drunk again like that, right? Now, that will save you a lot of trouble, but sometimes it happens, right? Like some people are not going to completely stop drinking. And so every once in a while, you're going to say something kind of embarrassing when you're drunk. And we can't go through life without making some kind of mistake or accidentally hurting someone's feelings or saying something stupid once in a while, right? So what is your plan of action here? Obviously depends on your personal situation, but there is a pretty good catch-all that I like and that I recommend to people when they need to have an awkward conversation. Step 1, text your friend and say, hey, I think, or I know, I acted weird last night while we were drinking, and I've been feeling really bad about it all day because I know I hurt your feelings or whatever it is, right? Made you uncomfortable, whatever. I'm sorry for putting you in that position, and I'm scaling back a little bit on the drinking because I think I'm a better friend when I'm not drunk, and I love you, and I don't want to make you feel that way again. Easy. Literally steal that from me if you want, word for word. I don't care. Now, step 2, and this is absolutely crucial, so I need you to lock in. Step 2, do not spend your whole day thinking about that response or waiting for that response from that person. Don't send the text and then freak out that you're not hearing from them. Don't. All the time when this happens, you are like, oh my God, they're ignoring me. 99% of the time, they just saw it at an inconvenient time and they know that it warrants like a legit text back. So they're about to do something they can't deal with that right now. That's normal. You would feel the same way. If I'm going in to record a podcast and someone texts me like an apology text right before I go in to record my podcast, guess what I'm doing? Recording my podcast. I will look at the text afterwards. It doesn't mean I'm more angry. It just means I'm in the middle of something, right? So adopt that mindset. Do not be panicking about waiting for this response all day. Go do something active. Go to the gym, make plans with a friend or family, watch a movie, read a book, do a home project you've been putting off, right? Like I freaking like put a doorknob on my door the other day. Do something like that. Clean the house. Literally anything except panicking and spiraling about what this girl's going to text you back. Anything else. And step 3, when you get the response, if it's a nice and forgiving one, reply with something short and sweet and then drop it. You have apologized. You've committed to changing your behavior and moving forward. You're good. Now, if the response is negative, they need space, they're hurt, they don't forgive you, whatever, even if you think it's unfair, right? At the end of the day, that's it. You say something like, no problem, I totally understand. And then you fucking drop it. You drop it because guess what? You can't go back in time and change it. We've established that. You've done what you can in the moment to make it better. We got that. And you, say it with me, cannot control how she chooses to move forward from this situation. That's it. Can't control it. That's in your list of cannot control. Now, sometimes there will actually be something you can do to fix the situation, right? Maybe you broke something in someone's kitchen or you stained a sweater you borrowed from them, whatever. Replace it best you can. Do it without offering. Do it without being prompted. Don't text them and be like, do you want me to replace? Just do it. Just do it. It's the nice thing to do. Maybe include a handwritten note that's apologetic but keeps it light, right? Sometimes there's something more you can do. But once you've looked at your list of things you can control and you have done everything on that list, you're done. Whether it's applying for a new job or starting to be a content creator, guess what? Okay, let's use that example. Guess what's within your control? Making a fuck ton of videos and posting them on your social media. Completely within your control. What is not in your control is how other people feel about that, how other people perceive it. Also, why do we give a fuck? It's 2025. The president is humiliating himself and all of us every single day. Nothing is more embarrassing than that, and he's doing it in front of a global audience. Come on, people. We can't be embarrassed for our get ready with me, for our fit check. We're doing fine. We're doing great, actually, I would say. So once you've looked at your list of can control and you've done everything on that list, you're done. And we already know that when we have our repeated cannot control thoughts, we need to stop that thought loop and be done too. So guess what? No matter what, the whole thing is done. We're done. And if it's out of your control, it's out of your brain. And if it's in your control, we'll exercise that control. And then it's out of your brain. So period, full stop, it's out of your brain. Now, if you have an overthinking problem that is not solved by these things, I highly recommend seeing a therapist or talking to someone, maybe even a doctor or like any kind of psychologist about it, because it's possible that you are having like irrational level overthinking thoughts. But I promise you, if you give all of these different things a good solid effort and it is not related to a mental health disorder or issue, this is a pretty good catch-all bucket for solving all your overthinking problems. So if you are having a spiral or an overthink and you have this formula in place, you have this in your toolkit, you're in a pretty good situation to solve this problem for yourself. But listen, if you ever want to come back to this episode, save it, come back to it when you're mid-spiral or mid-overthink and you just need to hear it again. Act like I'm your bestie. Like treat me like you would treat your therapist. Like speak as if you're speaking to me. I don't care. And give this episode a listen because it will distract your brain from the actual problem at hand and give you actionable steps that you can take to stop ruminating, stop spiraling, and get out of your own head. Because the last thing any of us need is to be in our own head more, if I'm being honest. All right, it's 2026. This year I'm not doing an outro because I think that's boring. And also I've already told you about all these cool guests I'm having on the pod. I believe next week, actually, we are getting Oh, Vienna's really interesting. I'm speaking with her next week. And if all goes well and, like, we have time to edit and stuff, you will be getting this episode next week. Vienna's coming on to talk about, like, core wounds and how they impact us as we go through our life and our relationships. It's really interesting. I'm really excited to talk to her. I have some really awesome questions for her. I think she's gonna be very smart. So, really looking forward to that, and I will catch you guys next week. And again, if you didn't start your shit on Jan 1, start your shit today. Start your shit tomorrow. Doesn't matter, but don't wait until next year. You got this. Happy New Year. I love you, and we'll talk soon.